Many people regard you as a personification of Ubuntu. What do you understand Ubuntu to be?
In the old days when we were young, a traveler through a country would stop at a village and he didn't have to ask for food or for water. Once he stops, the people give him food, entertain him. That is one aspect of Ubuntu, but it will have various aspects. Ubuntu does not mean that people should not enrich themselves. The question, therefore, is, are you going to do so in order to enable the community around you to be able to improve? These are the important things in life. And if one can do that, you have done something very important which will be appreciated.
On the 25th of December 2018, the Open Source Report from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network. Now we're working along here. This is a holiday, both a secular holiday and a religious holiday. Won't get into most of that, but however, it is something particularly in the American nation, and we have to realize that this particular holiday is somewhat limited when we look at it, as we do with the Open Source Report. We're looking at a global, from a global perspective, I should say. Let me rephrase that. When we look at where population centers are, billions of people in both India and in China, that not necessarily deal with this particular day where the numbers are, and the rest of the world. So when we say, as the late Alistair Cook would say, a happy Christmas to the many, particularly in North America, or a Merry Christmas, it's not a problem with us as being politically correct or politically not correct. There was a presidential campaign ran in 2016 that emphasized the Merry Christmas. Well, in the open source world, what we can say is, and Libra world, it is a collective effort. So if any holiday that encapsulates that type of behavior, we are behind it 100%. Let me just move on here to the latest announcement from the people at the Linux kernel. This is by old Linus Torvalds himself. I guess he's gotten out of re-education or anger management or wherever he was. Let me just read this. This is on the kernel list. The latest kernel has been released, 4.20. Let's face it, last week wasn't quite as I would have hoped. But there was really doesn't seem to me to be any point to delay 4.20 because everybody is already taking a break. And it's not like there are any known issues. It is just that the shortening, the short log below is a bit longer than I would have wished. But nothing screams that it's a scary thing. It's part of the everybody is already taking a break. I can happily report that I have already had quite a few pull requests in my inbox. I encourage people to get over and done with so that people can just relax over the year-end holiday. And this is the tradition here that we started talking about. It is the end of the year. It's a time to reflect. And as we leave this particular day and go towards the New Year's festivities in most of the world. There is a celebration of New Year's, and at WBRN we do a New Year's show, and later today we'll be doing our rendition, as Mr. Cook would say, Alistair Cook, the Happy Christmas Show. We basically got it ready. Even if most people hopefully won't ever be back until the won't ever be back until over the merged window is over. As to details of this, in last week, 4.0, most of it is network drivers, core networking fix. There are a few others, non-network driver updates too, and a series of a revert series of x86 inline changes that are obliterated by upcoming compiler support. Details below, and have a from old Linus, have a Merry Christmas or other holidays of your choice. Well, that in itself is interesting. We will append this to the program, and just some of the things that actually happen, mostly network drivers. I'm assuming, looking at this, that is going on there. Of course, fixed driver for use in config VMAP stack, things of that nature, little technical things that have been fixed. It's a tradition, at least with me, that we compile the kernels, our own custom kernels. We do it all the time. We have this kernel. We have both the kernel and the patch. Not certain which one I'll use, but we are now. Let me just look at this. We have the latest update from Slackware is 4.19.12, and I believe that is the one we have. That is a stable kernel, and as opposed to the 4.20, that of course that is now, that is actually now the latest stable kernel. I'm looking at things here, and has moved on past 4.19.12. The Slackware people are a little more cautious on this, but in generally speaking, we advise people to upgrade their kernels in a regular basis to have the latest security, particularly if you're in a situation where your servers are running in a more public environment. That's one of the big problems with any of these OSs. Generally speaking, sometimes the updates are not applied. And here, networking, I know in the Slackware domain, we've had some problems with some of the wireless drivers over a period of time. I've had problems myself with the wireless drivers, and now we've been working on Skype. And at one time, 20 years ago, we had Skype in various other things. Now, some things have been taken out, and this is not the kernel. We're deviating a little bit here. Been taken out of standard Linux distributions. Now, Ubuntu is a little bit different because it's sort of a hybrid distribution there. Things like Skype were included there, and we also, and we'll get to that in a minute, some other types of very similar programs are out there. We use Skype as basically as a phone platform, not necessarily a chat platform. There's some very good open source chat programs available there. Anyway, let's move on here. False Bytes, big article here showing the penguin, like the penguin, with a Christmas hat on here, and This is, according to them, the biggest kernel update in more than a year, and we consider the lines of code, and we just gave the announcement. There are some issues that you can find in the announcement, but they are too big, mostly in the last week of development. The biggest chunk of change came in the form of the usual networking fixes. Linus also took the opportunity to wish the kernel enthusiasts and developers a Merry Christmas there, and they talked about it, and we've talked about it too. Have a Merry Christmas, have a holiday of your choice. It goes without saying that the arrival of 4.20 is opening the merge window for 4.21, and it's turning out to be a big release, no doubt about that. Some people have actually talked about 5.0 going in that direction. I remember when we had 1. So in other words, we're moving there, and it does take time to get into those particular situations. Period. I'm just looking here at Fosbytes, see what they have got going here. We'll do Amazon. Amazon. I don't think they would appreciate that. Android Pie smartphones list. We'll get the updates there. Android Pie, at least according to Google's roadmap, will be the last, and that is number 9 would be the last in the series. I'm not sure where they are going to future. They were supposed to be going to future. Well, let me just read this. Is live, and the first thing comes to mind is our Android device will receive the new updates. The exciting new features of Android Pie and the new gesture navigation is not something anyone would want to miss. However, given the track record of smartphones, and this is one of the weaknesses in the Android smartphone ecosystem, it's on the manufacturers. The latest Android version has never delivered versions are never delivered right away. Do you remember how much time for 8.1 that's Oreo took to arrive on your device, and yet it's was behind for Nugent in terms of the Android share percentage. It's entirely imaginable why your device would get P. Google may already be releasing the Q beta, and we will talk about that in just a second here. To overcome Android fragmentation, Google has come up with a solution like Android Oreo and the Google beta programs. There is only so much you can do, and at the end of the day, it's between devices and the market. I hope your device is generous enough, like OnePlus, giving away Android Pie updates to all devices. Now, we'll explore this. Now, this is the Google list here, and this is unfortunately. Now, Google, of course, has Pixel and Pixel XL, and 2. It's unlikely that Android P will arrive on a Nexus device, and this is and the Kia and Essential Phone P1 after the Google phone to get the Android Pie out. They go through a whole list of basic phones here. We'll just append this, but we do want to get to Android Q will be called. And now they were supposed to go, and this is all right. This is the Android Q predictions. What's next? Dessert for Android 10. Well, it was not supposed to be an Android 10. now that Google has officially released Pi, marking the August 6th as the new Pi Day, we are wondering what Google will call its next Android version. Q. In part, we have also prepared a list of Android P names. If everything goes as planned, Google will release 10 in this year, in 2019. And as usual, by the time OEMs roll out the Android P upgrade, Google would have already announced the Q beta version. Unless, of course, you have a Google Pixel, you're receiving OTA updates. The beta program are Android Device 1, which will receive Pi by the end of... It says fall. Let me just... okay. This is August the 7th. That's a little bit behind Ian... looking at this, and I just discovered that. You discover all kinds of things. And this is just a list of various puddings. We won't really get into it. It's a little frustrating sometimes when you look at these and you find that some of the articles are a little more... This is actually in September. I need to look at it and see where the articles are. The problem when you're dealing with technical stuff, technical things, I should say, sometimes you don't want to be too far behind the 8 ball. And the dates many times do matter, and we look at dates to see exactly where we are. Excuse me. Anyway, that is enough of that. Let's just jump on the Alexa article here. This is actually much more current on the 23rd of December. Users received 1,700 voice recordings of a total stranger. Again, this has been the saga of Alexa, and this is Amazon. Users from Germany decided to exercise his right. Now, this is on the the EU's GDPR and demand his personal data recorded by the company instead of he received 1,700 recordings of someone else that he doesn't know. The man demanded a copy of the data Amazon has on him. 2 months later, he received a 100 megabyte file which contained some of his own data related to Amazon searches he made. There are hundreds of audio files and Alexa's transcripts to in the received file, but he doesn't even own an Echo device, so a big problem there. He reported this to Amazon and asked for further information, but he didn't get it. Later, he saved the files and shared the story with the German magazine CT. I guess it looks like CT. The magazine started its own investigation, listened to the files. It was able to pull together an informative picture of who the other user is. They were able to figure out his personal habits, devices he owned, tastes in music, the identity of his girlfriend, and even managed to listen to him in the shower. That's creepy, right? Well, I suppose so. And finally tracked down the other user who was unaware that Amazon had shared his personal data. Amazon, in defense, said that it gooped up and was a result of a one-time error made by a staff member, according to him. So some of the very strange situations going on, and we can all say it is very, very strange. I was looking at CT here, and I'm thinking that contaminated data. This is actually Alexa who has access, and this is evidently the English language investigation here, and we'll append this so you can look at it. But contaminated data. Indirectly, the case has to do with the consequences of rights enshrined in the new EU General Data Protection Regulation. That is the GDRP. These rules grant the consumers extensive rights when it comes to reviewing personal data collected by companies like Amazon. In August of 2018, Amazon German customer Mark Schroeder, not his real name, used these rights to ask Amazon to release personal data. We already ran over that. And 50 of the zipped files contain data relating to everyday things like Amazon searches, but there were around 1,700 WAV files and PDF cataloging unsorted transcripts of Alexa's interpretation of his voice commands. Schroeder was extremely surprised to find these files, as he doesn't use Alexa. Infringements of privacy. We asked him to send us some of the files, confidentially of course, and so we could give an idea of what they contained. They enabled us to piece together a detailed picture of the customer's concerns and his personal habits. It was obvious that customer X used Alexa in multiple locations. He had at least one Echo at home and had a voice command firebox connected to his TV. A female voice also spoke to Alexa, so there was clearly a woman around. Alexa was obviously able to hear our subject in the shower. We reported that. We're able to navigate around a couple of strangers' private lives without their knowledge, and we've heard those things before. The unfortunate mishap of the fact that Amazon linked the customer's data to the wrong person and didn't notice the mistake points to a serious lack of control over the process involved. It's obvious that no serious check took place. The situation is worse by the fact that Martin Schroeder received no reply when he informed Amazon of the error. Moreover, according to the victim, Neil Smith, Amazon didn't contact him either. These are names made up. The data protection system are obviously flawed. This is Amazon's on multiple levels. We contacted Amazon about the case without letting on to that we had identified the victims. Martin Schroeder, Amazon resolved the issue by having someone call him 3 days after we contacted Amazon. So this is where they put it together here. An attorney, Dr. Carlos Plutz, advises large and medium-sized companies on national and international privacy laws, and hosts the data security blog. Delete data. He says that Amazon should definitely have informed the victim about the disclosure. Amazon should have informed the victim as soon as they found out. That is from Carlos Plutz. That's P-I-L-T-Z. That is their obligations. Anyway, looking at the European privacy law, very important. We should have one like that in the States here. No doubt. Let me just jump around here a little bit. Even in beta news, however you want to pronounce it, one of the big things coming out here, this is kind of interesting. Visiting family for Christmas, replace Windows 10 on their computer with the Peppermint OS 9. That is a Linux edition, I suppose. I've not heard of it. Millions of Americans get together with family on Christmas. Actually, more get together on Thanksgiving. Many adult kids have returned to single-parent homes to celebrate. A home shared by both parents, if they beat the odds, are divorced. Well, there is, if they know about tech, you will get asked to fix mom's or dad's computer, be it malware or something else, and it's quite a frustrating task. Look, I know you are happy to help them, but you want to relax and enjoy the holidays, right? The Christmas, and you should give them the gift of stability and a secure operating system that doesn't spy on them. Enters Linux. Yes, Linux distributions can stop this woe, giving the family member a more secure platform that is less susceptible to malware and less likely to need you fixing it. If you live in the web browser anyway, Windows is just a liability these days. If I told you there was a Linux distribution that you could loosely lie into the holidays, well, candy canes are traditional peppermint flavors, and would you know there's a new version of an excellent peppermint OS now called 9 Respin. It is a refreshing previous release of the OS 9, Peppermint OS 9. I had not heard of this system. And System 76 Field's computer is open source. The term Peppermint Team Peppermint, are pleased to announce Peppermint 9 Respin, the latest iteration of our operating system, since it's based on the 18.40 long-term Peppermint. Still comes in both 62 and 32-bit versions for older hardware. We happily use it as half as much as we enjoy creating it. So this is Peppermint. Interesting. The Peppermint OS shares the following changes in the Respin. They use XPlayer there. We've had reports that, and we use the VLC has been getting a little flaky for some users over the last few releases. Haven't had that, but we'll look into it. Removed Linux Mint level for multiple updates. Won't get into a lot. It's added accessibility settings, utilities to the Peppermint settings panel. Enable, disable Neotech utility. I'm not sure what that is. Won't get into those. Added back by popular demand. The Peppermint sunset wallpaper. This little cosmetic changes here. All updates to date, including the latest version of the mini installed. Where are they? At 4.6.7 kernel. 4.5.06 and Foxfire 64. Most people have Foxfire 64 on their computers. Let's see if I can get a little bit more into Peppermint here, since we're talking about Peppermint. Actually, just in beta news, that Peppermint has flown out here. It is lesser known, no doubt about that, milestone called Peppermint. Version 5 is now available for download. And I'm not certain the kernel is 4.15 series. Well, actually they have 4.15. Okay. And a few other and a few other things here. And of course you have these two there. I'm not sure about how this Microsoft Office. New Microsoft Office online. I see. Yeah, this is a little different one. That's all we can say there. And there are times that not certain where this particular edition, since I've not followed it, that beta news here anyway. How they got into the Microsoft family, not had following Peppermint. Anyway, so much for Peppermint. Let us move along here. And this is Distribution Watch. We've always looked at them to see where things are going here. Old Open Mandriver is still around. They used to be one of the upcoming distributions, and hadn't heard anything from them. They've changed the name. It was a French distribution. In fact, we carried it at one time, and we don't now. But if you look at this, you will see some distributions that we've not. Libra Elect, I'm not sure what that one is. That's the number one out here that have appeared on the scene. There are just so many distributions. You could be in the distribution business forever. And just kind of just looking at some of these as we roll along. Again, Peppermint reappears. It's a lightweight distribution. It's based on Ubuntu. We finally found out a little bit more about it. Combination of local and web-based applications, and some of the things that they put in. That we sort of previously mentioned. We won't get into those, but it is an Ubuntu, so that's a little bit different here. Another distribution here. Let's see, Peter Naney. Announcing availability first release candidate for Selks, I guess, SELKS. It's a specialized Debian-based distribution design for networking security management. Yet another upgrade of Selks here. Fixes some things. I had not... seen it before, but again, these are some of the more this is in fact a release candidate, so that in itself is a little bit different there that they put this out. This is for people that are interested in security. Let me just move on here. I won't spend a lot of time on that. MX Linux, they also have a release out, version 18. That's a Debian also release, and Linux Mint. They just come out with another release too, 19 for them, and really just a mixture of things here. But you could be into distributions forever. When we started talking about Skype, now this is a product we've also used, and glad to see it now in the Linux world. It is called FreeCX phone system. Is specialist. It's a Debian-based Linux distribution designed to run a complete unified communications program. The FreeCX client included in the distribution can be installed separately on most hardware as well as in the cloud. It provides a complete open standard IP PBX and phone system that works with popular IP phones are SIP trunks here. It automatically configures all supported peripherals and comes with for clients. And for Windows, OS X, iOS, and Android, the image, and we need to get this up here. We had it at one time, and let's see. It even has a database in it. It has old IP tables for those that remember that, and a secure shell option. Not. It's been removed. Anyway, we'll have to link to it. And let's go to some other roundups here that we've been saving around for a while there. Occasionally we pick up things that are technical things from our Twitter feeds, and we keep them around for a very, very long time. From CIO, used to have a good friend of mine, used to edit CIO. Anyway, AL's dark secret, a desire for data without boundaries. AL revolution is hungry for personal data. We just talked a little bit about that. Alexa, the U.S. needs to pursue federal privacy legislation before machine intelligence and surveillance intersect. This is very important here. AL offers the potential to help humankind in many ways. Driverless cars, smart infrastructure hold a promise to reduce congestion by facilitating the movement of people through cities, improve diagnostic and treatment. Much of that is starting to be used. New tools are appearing frequently. Amazon has been granted 2 patents for a wrist band that tracks workers' hand movements as they pack the boxes. That is not progress. While filling orders, the wristbands use radio frequencies, and you've seen those in retail stores, to track hand movements so precisely that the bands vibrate to nudge the hand in the proper direction when inefficient movements are detected. Oh boy. Just some of the things here. I'm sort of we got this article in here about that. Unfortunately, a large amount of data required to unlock the benefits of these tools and also make consumers and workers' surveillance much easier. Is expected to be fully operational by 2020. The system aggregates payment history, medical records, legal records, along with other data to create individual profiles. In addition, it's highly believed that the system uses facial recognition, and that has already started, to track where individuals travel, without whom she interacts. Cameras are so widespread, of course, in major cities. You have in London and those areas, you have that. It's not a big deal. And on a more internet basis, WeVibe sells a Bluetooth-enabled vibrator that can be controlled by a smartphone. There's that anymore. Anyway, WeVibe, whoever they are, agreed to pay $3.75 million to settle a class action that asserted the company collected data on how frequently the toy, it's a sex toy, was used. So sometimes you get what you pay for when you're dealing with situations of that particular operation. And looking at ZDNet here, we were looking at Tech Republic earlier today, and when you Chrome OS to block a USB access while the screen is locked. Well, no doubt that is one of the things that is coming about. The Apple phone, incidentally, at least some could be accessed by using the USB on them. Period. More AL news, and the reason we are doing a lot of artificial intelligence here, I think we'll go to India here first. Authorized 10 agencies to intercept, monitor, and decrypt data. The Indian government gave 10 agencies the legal authority to intercept, monitor, and decrypt information. That was approved on the 20th by the Indian Agency of Home Affairs on an act in 2000. That's the Intelligence Bureau, the Narcotics Bureau, the Enforcement Directive, the Central Bureau of Direct Taxes, the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence, the Bureau of Investigation, and so forth and so on. The order sparked outrage in India amongst citizens, privacy of people, etc. To claim some of the rumors are swirling around, the Ministry of Home Affairs also issued a clarification today explaining that any interception, monitoring, data decryption would be done as a per due process of law with the approval of the of the Union Home Security apparatus. So, well, again. I don't know, all kinds of things here. 2 Android apps used in combat by U.S. troops contain severe vulnerabilities. Again, this is from ZDNet here. U.S. troops use 2 Android applications contain these vulnerabilities here. That was from the Naval Inspector General's office. The application name Killwatch, kinetic integrated low-cost software integrated tactical combat handheld, and the Android Precision Assault Strike Suite. Both applications work by showing satellite images of surroundings, including objects, mission goals, and nearby enemies and friendly forces. 2 applications use modern day replacement for radar and paper maps, allowing troops to use real-time messaging there. And I think we will put this one up. The applications have been under development since 2012. Starting in 2015, they have been made generally available to U.S. troops via a public app store managed by the National Geospan Intelligence Agency. That's, of course, the report here. The kill switch and APAS were never meant or approved to be deployed in live combat zones. So you've heard about it here, and we will put this one up. Let me run along here. Now, this is an interesting one we ran into called Freedom. The world is a fast and anonymous public.
Is a super fast and anonymous DNS resolver. But what's a resolver? Every time your computer, tablet, phone, or other device connects to the internet, it uses domain names. A DNS resolver translates these domain names into server numbers or IP addresses. Normally, your internet service provider will provide this service, but a lot of these DNS resolvers are too slow, outdated, and they log your IP address information. If you set your DNS to 80.80.80.80 and 80.80.81.81, you are sure that you use a fast and secure DNS resolver, which is always geographically close to you. But there is more. Also, large ad networks may provide your DNS resolver service. If that's the case, your internet usage may be logged and used for unwanted ads. If you use Freedom World's DNS servers, your IP address will not be logged, and you use the internet anonymously. So start to use the internet faster and anonymous and set your DNS to 80.80.80.80 and 80.80.81.81. Thanks for using Freedom World.
Now, this was the Freedom World server here. We put this up. It does, in fact, work. No doubt about that. And we haven't got the specifics back from them yet, but we'll look and see. Incidentally, AT&T is a 5G network behind the scenes in Texas as new mobile network goes live. Evidently, in Austin and Dallas, live trials in Waco, Texas seemed to see how the carrier launched its new network by the end of this year, 2018. This is the 23rd of December. Thought we would put this out. You heard lots about G5 networks. G5 networks went live in mid-December in parts of Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Waco, Atlanta, Charlotte, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, and Louisville, Oklahoma City, New Orleans, and Raleigh, using multimedia wave spectrum. In the first half, and this is where it's kind of interesting here, it will also be switched on in Los Angeles, San Antonio, San Diego, San Francisco, San Jose, Vegas, Orlando, and Nashville. That itself this is the G5 network. It's up. The network test enables AT&T to perform its first official G5 data center with the purpose of the trial running to prove that the wave would work for G5 anyway. So that is G5. It's out, and there's been much talk about G5. A picture of G5 here, and we'll put this up, I suppose, on the Cranston software webpage. AT&T is also expecting to launch two G5 smartphones. Well, you have to have a smartphone for the G5 network, so that will be next year. So a lot of things coming next year, and in our preview, an open source report, we always have a preview in January where we'll be looking at the new year coming in. We normally have this type of story, but we sort of beat it up there this year to see where we are going here. And wait a minute. This is Tech Republic. I think we'll hit on this a little bit as we end the things here. This is how to start as a Alexa developer, a cheat sheet, as they call it. Alexa has evolved beyond the Amazon Echo into one of the hottest platforms in tech. And the launch of Echo and its voice service, Alexa, brought virtual assistants out there. And after starting off with 100 things, Alexa devices can do a number of available Alexa skills, now topping 70,000. That was at. That was in. Let me just make sure that it is this year. Anyway, an interest in development tools for the platform have skyrocketed. Many developers eager to jump into the ecosystem. What is Alexa's developers platform? Is a voice service. I remember doing voice work with IBM. Called Alexa Echo. Developers can create skills for Echo using Alexa Skills Kit and integrate Alexa into their existing products. What does Alexa development platform affect? This affects developers who want to get started working on Alexa. For its available APIs, Alexa's smart a system that relies on human voice commands. Anyway, this is the Alexa program here. Alexa has been integrated into smart speakers by a number of them there, voice included, Fire TV, etc. And, well, Alexa has helped to drive an interest in voice technology, while other services such as Apple, Siri, and Google Assistant, and the Microsoft Cortana launched before Alexa have been synonymous with voice systems, but not as used as regular. And I think part of that is that Amazon sells a system there. Much like mobile a decade ago, we see natural user interfaces like speech. Speech has been around for a very, very long time. And some of it here. Now, one of the things, and I looked at this a few weeks, I guess a week back, as to where to go to get the APIs and get started there. Some of the things, kind of a little disappointment here in that, let me just, the Alexa's skills here, well, I guess. Okay. Incidentally, this report can be heard excuse me, on Alexa, so we have to get that little plug in. And the other smart ones also. Google, all these so-called smart speakers are out there, and you can just say open source report, and we will hopefully appear. Not sure how much we'll appear, but now this is the Amazon Lex service. I'm not certain what will pop up onto this window. Conversational interfaces for your application powered by the same deep learning. You'll find all this over at old Amazon there. Amazon Lex provides an easy-to-use console to guide you through the development process. And I suppose there are no upfront costs or minimal fees. You're only charged for the text and speech. Oh, I see. Requests that are made. Well, so in other words, there's something into this. No doubt there's also open source type things, and we get more into that. We have a little bit more time. The old Raspberry Pi, and we'll usually every broadcast we have something on Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi has been around for a very long time. Credit card sized board. The Pi began as something of a aquatic endeavor designed to rekindle curiosity about computing. No doubt. A little bit on the Pi here. Fast forward 20 years, however, getting above ahead of myself there. The Raspberry Pi cost $35. I had to create a computer that just wasn't cheap. I remember when we were trying to get, it was a $100 computer at the time, had an AMD processor in it for various developing nations, particularly in Africa, but that disappeared. Now we got the $35 cheaper one. The first thing I built, you could call a Raspberry Pi, was based on an Intel microcontroller, and etc. They have 3D graphics showing a Raspberry Pi there. And various other things. In 2008, this is Upton set down University of Cambridge, a professor there, Mycroft. How Raspberry Pi got its name was in 2008. the year we would see Upton create a prototype that would give Pi its name. While the second prototype was more powerful than the initial hand-built creation, the machine was still not a full-fledged computer like the Pi and running on a Broadcom graphics processor, vector processor, etc. There, once again, the prototype had echoed the BBC Micro that Upton grew up using. Anyway, this was BBC Macro, boots into basic, so we won't get into so much of that, but this is basically the story concept designed around another processor in 219, and it keeps on going here about the Pi and where the Pi was going. And various chips incidentally have been used in the Pi, the Raspberry Pi Alpha board, anyway. And hitting on some things here, the battle to transform a 110-pound monster into the Pi, every component on the tiny board had to earn its place, no doubt about that. Lomas recalls, anyway, case in point, they wanted the Pi to be good quality and to work with newer TVs, monitors, which required HDMI. Yeah. So it does have that, and the older CTs there, Loomis has said VGA would have eaten up too many peripheral pins on the chip. So they actually went to HDMI to use. This is a story here. By December, the design for Pi was finally where it needed to be, and a week running up to Christmas, Loomis made 20 beta boards for Norcup manufacturing plant at the Norcup in Chelsea. So a British situation, quoting with success. The Pi, assuming they'd sell no more than 1,000, even after the first offering, the Pi was up to 600,000 and still counting. And on the deal, Farnell and RS Components took care of the manufacturing and distribution of Pi boards, initially out of a factory in China, and then later at the Sony factory in South Wales. Story I didn't know. The beginning of March with 100,000 orders. I mean, this thing was going up and up and up and away in a very quick thing. This is back to Pi 1 in 2012. And, of course, the momentum went on to keep up with 2018. More than 22 million of these boards have been sold across the world with 3 generations of Pi released. Most recently, the Raspberry Pi 3 Model A, a $25 board. This mission, that is a massive upgrade from the 2012, I would imagine so. But these little Pi devices is something you want to have. And looking back, Upton is proud of what the foundation accomplished by launching Pi 1. That was in 2012. In 2014, it was Pi 1 Model B, and so forth and so on. We love the Steve Jobs narrative. Was the world isn't like when you're trying to build something as complicated as a Raspberry Pi. Very complicated situation here. And since the Raspberry Pi is open source, and we looked at it, and it can be used for many things. In fact, credit card size, you can just use it for a computer. It's sold online. It's sold in stores. It's all over the place. A picture here of Peter Loomis and David Barber, even Upton, and so forth and so on. A picture of these people, and this is Nick Heath. The inside the Raspberry Pi, the story of the $35 computer that changed the world. I think this is a good holiday story to have out there. And looking at some here, digital agriculture, self-driving tractors, precision farming. We've done in the Internet of Things. We've done some work on and featured open source hardware. I'm not sure we'll get to that in this particular situation, but Agriculture 4.0 is one. Digital farming is more effective and sustainable than its counterpart in the past. Smart digital crops there now. Is one of the things we'll have to do more work on, as usual, when we start into these ventures. Purdue University, yes, in West Lafayette, Indiana. Its agronomy department, Center for Research and Education, is constantly assessing better ways to increase yields. And hopefully they're not collecting 1.4 petabytes of data. That's a lot of data. Indo farming in San Francisco, Jones Foods in Europe. The role of big data in farming. I think we talked a little bit about it at Purdue. 1,400 acres and what they actually are able to produce. They've even got drones and satellites in this, and cost reduction and those sort of things. The Internet of Things sensors in the field, that's at the Purdue University there, how drones lead anyway. This is not, doesn't talk here about the open source part of it, but we'll bring that up in a report later. This is Agriculture 4.0. I'm not sure.
So when you think about agriculture, our bottom line really is to feed the world, right? And to do that, to feed the estimated 9 billion people by 2050, we have to significantly increase our productivity in terms of food generation if we're going to be able to feed the world.
Purdue University has a research facility dedicated to finding better ways to farm by increasing yields and improving efficiency. The bottom line is to figure out a way to feed the world.
We're talking about big data, connected to everything, just like our consumer market, our refrigerators, our light bulbs, etc., are all connected today. As the same is true for farm implements, and even the plants themselves will one day be connected, if you will, in some way.
Purdue is working to figure out how to handle the vast amounts of data going over the network. Edge computing is one of the answers. When did you start doing this sort of data collection?
Oh, we've been doing it for many years, but it's just recently that we've had to do it at this kind of scale. One of the questions that we had, if we're producing that much data, how can we minimize the amount of data we have to transfer over the network, because it's so big that it can take time, right? So we determined that edge computing was required. So at the site where the sensors are generating the data, we do some pre-processing, then take the value data or the data extraction and move it into high performance clusters or whatever. There's too many farmers today that aren't data driven, just like the rest of us. You show me the value kind of empirically, right? Then I'll give it a shot.
Purdue's Agronomy Center for Research and Education, known as ACRE, is a 1,408-acre research farm where they're using IoT sensors to test a plant's molecular responses to various factors such as water, fertilization, and soil.
Let's call Andy and get...
Okay, we'll, future report, we'll actually look at some of the open, we've done it in other reports, the open source part of the machinery and how it was moving along there. And we'll close this out. We'll go to Malwarebytes, their laboratory It's on December the 19th. Chromebooks can and do get infected. We've heard people say Macs don't get viruses for years, but we know that to be false. So let me just get this Chromebook story here. Although Chromebook is not completely open sourced, it's on December the 18th. iPhones are still capable of getting infected by malware, and when I heard the claim that viruses on the Chrome OS don't exist, now this is Google's, although it's certainly true that viruses, a class of malware, spread itself by injecting malicious code into other processes. No administrative permission, no problems right, despite the popular belief Chromebooks don't actually run Android. They run a system called Chrome OS, where all Android applications are run in emulation. There are certainly some security improvements in Chrome over Android. For example, powerful devices administrators permission on advice on Android are unavailable on Chrome. Limited amount of bad that malware can do, so malware can't get those permissions. It's seriously not right, wrong. If I had a dime for every time I heard somebody minimized some of the new pieces of malware, because it doesn't have root permission, bad guys can get away with lots of bad stuff, including stealing data, hijacking CPUs for purposes of botnets or crypto mining. Android malware equals Chromebook malware. Let's take a look at examples here. BuzzFeed store applications from a Chinese company that engaged in ad fraud. These applications don't require anything more than permission to access a number of different bits of data. A more malicious example comes in the form of malware cryptocurrency wallet applications found on Google Play. These applications would not require any particular device permission. Cryptocurrency and fake wallets are supported by these applications. In reality, the cryptocurrency stored could not be withdrawn later. Consider the threat from fake antivirus software. This software that poses as antivirus but provides none of the actual benefits, and that was in 2013. It was charging users $1.99 for the privilege of scanning their computer. I've ran into those schemes before. And let's see what else we got going on. For a long time, people had said that Macs don't do viruses. Well, this is... So now the Chromebook virus is out. This is actually from the malware bytes log. Not all Chromebooks do. If you don't, you cannot download malware through Google Play, much less third parties. Malware bytes browser extension beta for protection against browser attacks such as phishing, or that if you happen to have Chrome. So malware bytes for Android and Chrome OS is here to help. So that will leave it at, as they say, a good segue away. This is the open source report. Went a little longer than we expected to do, on the 25th of December 2018 from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network. This is Emma, and we normally partner, we always do, with Cranston Software. And a happy holiday to all as we exit the Jerry Pippin broadcast booth. Good day.